But then they get a big flip, Joey. Vernon Woodward, really good defensive back. You turn on that film and you see Illinois cornerback kind of feistiness, Illinois cornerback length, 6'2", 180, but they flip him from Wisconsin just 2 weeks after he committed to Wisconsin. Wisconsin has been a thorn in Illinois' side so far with Luke Fickell. Last year, they were a thorn in the side, even with Paul Christ on the hot seat and all those things. So to get a win like this, to flip him, is big. What'd you think of this?
Yeah, can we start with the tape? Because when you watch these Florida defensive backs that Illinois is in on, especially corners, it's not a carbon copy, but it's pretty close. They're physical, they're aggressive, they can cover. They've got to tackle. We talked to somebody yesterday who basically said if they don't tackle, it's not a high degree of interest there. They want that physicality. Werner Woodward, he fits that mold. I mean, he's a very aggressive corner, and to go out and get that flip. We had talked about this, right? He visited Wisconsin, Werner Woodward did, committed on his visit, and to show up at Illinois the next week, it was like, something's up here. Are you going to do it? Oh, I thought you were going to do it.
Perfect time to give me a draft tonight too. What's up, man?
That's good. That's good. Look at that tie-in, Jim. You're
For the
pretty good.
Podcast listeners, I'm doing the Brian Windhorst meme photo in my office.
But yeah, man, that's Illinois continued to pursue him, got him on campus after his commitment, and sold their pitch, and it was a big flip. The rating, I mean, he's not a 4-star kid, but I know he's one of your guys, and not to steal your thunder there, Jeremy, but his tape is impressive. He's physically can cover. He's a guy that you've seen Illinois recruit out of the state of Florida, the defensive back, really since Brett Bielema got here, and probably to a degree before that.
Yeah, and I don't want to lock a guy into a position, but boy, he looks like a corner. But I do think he can play free safety. Illinois kind of figures that out as they go along. They'll switch guys' positions, but this guy has positional versatility. But I think corner, 6'2", he's got that length that Aaron Henry likes, but I think most importantly, he's got that feistiness. And we need to shout out Antonio Finellis. We've talked about Charlie Bullen and his immediate impact in recruiting so far. We'll get more into that. We've talked about now Robbie Disher landing his first commitment in Carson Conkle along with Andy Boo there. But this is a big one for Antonio Finellis, who's the lead here. And, Antonio's coached and recruited a little bit, but not at this level. He was a defensive analyst at LSU. So this is a pretty nice first get. And yeah, I mean, I think we all saw that Wisconsin commitment was a surprise. It was a surprise from what we've heard. It was pretty impulsive. Not to dive into like personal stuff with him, but like, it just felt like that wasn't going to stick. Even Ryan Easterling was telling us that one doesn't feel like it's going to stick. And then he visits Illinois, and Illinois felt really good. Feels like this has been in the works for the last week and a half. But this is Illinois cashing in on its DB sell, right, Joey? Like, we were wondering, you got to take advantage of Devin Witherspoon being the number 5 pick in the draft, of Quan Martin being a top 50 draft pick, of Sidney Brown, of Kirby Joseph. Vernon Woodward is the type of Power 5 recruiting win that I think shows that resonates. Because, yeah, Woodward to me is a little underrated in our rankings right now. I think he's like 900 in the country in the composite, 911. 87 rating for 24/7 Sports doesn't feel too off, but to me, he's a high 3-star, getting into that 4-star level caliber for me. Like if you were doing top 650 for 4 stars, as people know I would do, I think he'd be right in that category. So I think this is one of the best gets they've gotten in the class. And yeah, he's one of my guys because you turn on the film and you see the traits that we always talk about, but you also see the mindset that made, Devin Witherspoon successful, Quan Martin successful. I think Nate Hobbs successful. And I think Taz Nicholson, what made him successful last year, only Vernon Woodward's 6'2", not closer to 5'10".
Yeah. Like you said, the traits are there. Like we're starting now that you've got a few recruiting classes, not to get too far off of the path here, but like you see the traits more and more as they start getting whether it's an offer, who they have probably more appropriately, who they have visit and who they land commitments from. Like you see the traits that matter to this coaching staff at the various positions. We're still learning some, obviously, but I think defensive back it's very, very clear what this coaching staff wants.
Yeah, Joey. And Ryan Walters used this. Hate to bring up Ryan Walters with Illinois fans right now.
How dare you?
But pulled the trigger was something he always brought up and we wrote about several times.
It changed Sidney Brown's football playing career.
Yeah. Like that phrase almost, changed it for Sidney. That like, hey, we can scheme you up. We can teach you technique, but if you're thinking too much out there, just pull the trigger. Just, you are a football player. Go play football. When you see something or you feel something, do it. Sidney Brown clearly had that. Devin Witherspoon clearly had that. Quan Martin clearly had that the last couple of years. I think Nate Hobbs has shown that in the NFL, right? The last couple of years. Woodward has that. Like, I think that is so important to this staff. Like, whenever you turn on the DB film of most of these guys that we're talking about, most of them have that instinct, that pull the trigger mentality.